The Sword of Destiny. Chapter 3.
Ciri. Hmm?
The little girl sniffed and rustled the branches she was lying on.
Aren't you cold?
No, she sighed.
It's warm today. Yesterday I froze offy. Oh my, how I did.
It is a marvel, Brian said, loosing the straps of her long, soft boots.
A tiny little moppet, but she has covered a long stride of forest, and she got past the lookouts, through the bog and the thicket. She is robust, healthy and stout. Truly, she would come in useful to us.
Geralt glanced quickly at the dryad, at her eyes shining in the semi-darkness. Brienne leaned back against a tree, removed her hairband, and let her hair down with a shake of her head.
She entered Broccolon,
she muttered, forestalling his comment.
She is ours, Gwynblythe. We are marching to Dwyncanel.
Lady Aithne will decide, he responded tartly, but he knew Brienne was right. Pity, he thought, looking at the little girl wriggling on the green bed. She's such a determined rascal. Where have I seen her before? Oh, never mind. But it's a pity. The world is so big and so beautiful, and Broccolon will now be her world until the end of her days, and there may not be many. Perhaps only until the day she falls in the bracken amidst cries and the whistles of arrows, fighting in this senseless battle for the forest, on the side of those who will lose, who have to lose, sooner or later. Ciri?
Yes?
Where do your parents live?
I don't have any parents, she sniffed. They drowned at sea when I was tiny.
Yes, he thought, that explains a lot. A princess, the child of a deceased royal couple. Who knows if she isn't the third daughter following 4 sons, a title which in practice means less than that of chamberlain or equerry. A mousy-haired, green-eyed thing hanging around the court who ought to be shoved out as quickly as possible and married off as quickly as possible before she matures and becomes a young woman and brings the threat of scandal, misalliance or incest, which would not be difficult in a shared castle bedchamber. Her escape did not surprise the Witcher. He had frequently met princesses and even queens roaming around with troops of wandering players, happy to have escaped some decrepit king still desirous of an heir. He had seen princes preferring the uncertain fate of a soldier of fortune to marriage to a lame or pockmarked princess chosen by their father, whose withered or doubtful virginity was to be the price of an alliance or dynastic coalition. He lay down beside the little girl and covered her with his jacket. "Sleep," he said. "Sleep, little orphan."
Orphan? She growled. I'm a princess, not an orphan. And I have a grandmama. And my grandmama is a queen, so you'd better be careful. When I tell her you wanted to give me the strap, my grandmama will order your head chopped off. You'll see.
Ghastly. Ciri, have mercy.
Not a chance.
But you're a good little girl, and beheading hurts awfully. You won't say anything, will you?
I will.
Ciri.
I will. Afraid, are you?
Dreadfully. You know, Ciri, you can die from having your head cut off.
Are you mocking me?
I wouldn't dream of it.
She'll put you in your place, you'll see. No one takes liberties with my grandmama. When she stamps her foot, the greatest knights and warriors kneel before her. I've seen it myself, and if one of them is disobedient, then it's chop and off with his head.
Dreadful. Ciri?
Uh-huh.
I think they'll cut off your head.
My head?
Naturally. After all, your grandmama, the queen, arranged a marriage with Kistrin and sent you to Nastrog Castle in Verden. You were disobedient. As soon as you return, it'll be chop and off with your head. The little girl fell silent. She even stopped fidgeting. He heard her smacking her lips, biting her lower lip and sniffing.
You're wrong, she said. Grandmama won't let anyone chop off my head because she's my grandmama, isn't she? Oh, at most I'll get...
Aha! Geralt laughed. There's no taking liberties with grandmama, is there? The switch has come out, hasn't it? Ciri snorted angrily. Do you know what? He said. We'll tell your grandmama that I've already whipped you, and you can't be punished twice for the same crime. Is it a deal?
You must be silly.
Ciri raised herself on her elbows, making the branches rustle.
When grandmama hears that you thrashed me, they'll chop your head off just like that.
So you are worried for my head, then? The little girl fell silent and sniffed again.
Geralt,
What, Ciri?
Grandmama knows I have to go home. I can't be a princess or the wife of that stupid Kistrin. I have to go home, and that's that.
You do, he thought. Regrettably, it doesn't depend on you or on your grandmama. It depends on the mood of old Ithne, and on my persuasive abilities.
Grandmama knows, Ciri continued, because Geralt, promise you won't tell anybody. It's a terrible secret. Dreadful. I'm serious. Swear.
I swear.
Very well, I'll tell you. My mama was a witch, so you'd better watch your step. And my papa was enchanted too. It was all told to me by one of my nannies, and when Grandmama found out about it, there was a dreadful to-do, because I'm destined, you know?
To do what?
I don't know, Ciri said intently. But I'm destined. That's what my nanny said. And Grandmama said she won't let anyone, that the whole bloody castle will collapse first. Do you understand? And Nanny said that nothing at all can help with destiny. Ha! And then Nanny wept and Grandmama yelled. Do you see? I'm destined. I won't be the wife of that silly Kistrin. Geralt?
Go to sleep, he yawned, so that his jaw creaked. Go to sleep, Ciri.
Tell me a story.
What?
Tell me a story, she snorted. How am I supposed to sleep without a story? I mean, really?
I don't know any damn stories. Go to sleep.
You're lying. You do. What? No one told you stories when you were little? What are you laughing about?
Nothing. I just recalled something.
You see? Go on.
What?
Tell me a story.
He laughed again, put his hands under his head, and looked up at the stars, twinkling beyond the branches above their heads. There was once a cat, he began, an ordinary tabby mouser, and one day that cat went off all by itself on a long journey to a terrible dark forest. He walked, and he walked, and he walked.
Don't think, Ciri mumbled, cuddling up to him, that I'll fall asleep before he gets there.
Keep quiet, rascal. So, he walked, and he walked, until he came across a fox, a red fox. Brienne sighed and lay down beside the Witcher on the other side, and also snuggled up a little.
Very well, Ciri sniffed. See what happened next.
The fox looked at the cat. Who are you? He asked. I'm a cat, said the cat. Ah, said the fox, but aren't you afraid, cat, to be roaming the forest alone? What will you do if the king comes a-hunting, with hounds and mounted hunters and beaters? I tell you, cat, said the fox, the chase is a dreadful hardship to creatures like you and I. You have a pelt, I have a pelt, and hunters never spare creatures like us, because hunters have sweethearts and lovers, and their little hands and necks get cold, so they make muffs and collars for those strumpets to wear.
What are muffs?
Ciri asked. Don't interrupt. And the fox went on. I, cat, know how to outwit them. I have 1,286 ways to outfox those hunters, so cunning am I. And you, cat, how many ways do you have?
Oh, what a fine tale, Ciri said, cuddling more tightly to the Witcher. What did the cat say?
Aye, whispered Brienne from the other side. What did the cat say? The Witcher turned his head. The Dryad's eyes were sparkling, her mouth was half open, and she was running her tongue over her lips. He could understand. Little Dryads were hungry for tales, just like little witches, because both of them were seldom told bedtime stories. Little Dryads fell asleep listening raptly to the wind blowing in the trees. Little witches fell asleep listening raptly to their aching arms and legs. Our eyes also shone like Brienne's when we listened to the tales of Vesemir in Kaer, but that was long ago. So long ago.
Well, Ciri said impatiently, what then?
The cat said, I, fox, don't have any ways. I only know one thing, up a tree as quick as can be. That ought to be enough, oughtn't it? The fox burst out laughing. Ha, he said, what a goose you are. Flourish your stripy tail and flee, for you'll perish if the hunters trap you. And suddenly, from nowhere, the horns began to sound, and the hunters leapt out from the bushes, and they saw the cat and the fox, and they were upon them.
"Oh!"
Ciri sniffed, and the dryad shifted suddenly. Quiet! And they were upon them, yelling, "Have them! Skin them! We'll make muffs out of them! Muffs!" And they set the hounds on the fox and the cat darted up a tree like every cat does, right to the very top. But the hounds seized the fox, and before Reynard had time to use any of his cunning ways, he'd been made into a collar. And the cat meowed from the top of the tree and hissed at the hunters, but they couldn't do anything to him because the tree was as high as hell. They stood at the foot of the tree, swearing like troopers, but they had to go away empty-handed. And then the cat climbed down from the tree and slunk calmly home.
"What happened then?"
"Nothing. That's the end."
"What about the moral?" Ciri asked. "Tales always have a moral, don't they?"
"Eh?" Brian said, hugging Geralt even harder.
"What's a moral?" "A good story has a moral, and a bad one doesn't," Ciri sniffed with conviction. "That was a good one,"
the dryad yawned.
"So it has what it ought to have. You, Moppet, should have scurried up a tree from that eargern, like that canny tomcat. Not pondered, but scurried up the tree without thought, and that is all the wisdom in it. To survive, not to be caught."
The Witcher laughed softly. "Weren't there any trees in the castle grounds, Ciri? In Nastrog? Instead of coming to Brokilon, you could have skinned up a tree and stayed there at the very top until Kistrin's desire to wed had waned."
"Are you mocking me?"
"Uh-huh."
"Know what? I can't stand you."
"That's dreadful. Ciri, you've stabbed me in the very heart."
"I know."
She nodded gravely, sniffing, and then clung tightly to him. "Sleep well, Ciri," he muttered, breathing in her pleasant sparrow scent. "Sleep well. Good night, Brian."
"They are, my Gwynblythe."
Above their heads, a billion Brokilon branches soughed, and hundreds of billions of Brokilon leaves rustled.